Mike, there's a glaze on just about everything. What kind of issues might that create for the rest of the day, as we think we could be in this for several more hours?
Yes, we're going to have precip falling through this evening, 10, 11 o'clock tonight. The issue becomes when the sun goes down, we lose the daylight and the roads. We may have some issues on the bridges and overpasses. Let's bring in a guy who knows what's going on. This is Adam Lape, the Director of Operations for Washtenaw County. I don't want to say Waukesha, Washtenaw County here, which is the home county of Ann Arbor. What can you tell us about what you did yesterday versus today?
Yesterday it was not doing this, so we were kind of out working regular road work, and then this morning loaded all the trucks and started snow and ice patrol. So patrolling for these ices on the wet surfaces here and watching the temperatures. So that's what we're doing at the moment.
Are you concentrating more on the elevated surfaces versus the streets that have no cold air surrounding them?
Yeah, elevated surfaces, it's starting to build up a little bit now, so we're starting to patrol all the paved surfaces at this point.
And what about the interstates?
Yeah, the interstates, we're patrolling them, every inch of those that we can take care of. Bridges, overpass, main line, and then the ramp system.
That's kind of unusual because in most states, the interstates are done by the state DOT, but in Michigan, it's different.
Yeah, it's a little different. So we're contracted by the state of Michigan to take care of their maintenance, and that includes winter maintenance during the winter. So keeps us busy. It's another 600 lane miles that we take care of in this county, Washtenaw.
Well, you haven't been very busy this winter, have you?
No, it's been a little bit quiet. So
plenty of salt.
we like a little practice. So.
Well, you can save some money next year. You don't have to order as much, right?
Right, that is correct.
Okay,
yeah.
Adam Lape, thanks for joining us here from the Department of Transportation. He's Director Ops here in the county. I want to show you some of the ice accretion right now. And if you've been watching, it's increasing a little bit. Let's pick out the limb right here, maybe this limb. You can see a little bit on the top and some on the bottom. So we are getting some ice accretion. The liquid rainfall so far at the airport here in Ann Arbor is 0.25, but obviously not all of that has frozen. Some runs off and temperatures are marginal. And then across the street, we're beginning to see a little shine to the trees. So there is some ice on them. And notice the wind's blowing. So that is something different that we had, for instance, in Memphis a few weeks ago. We didn't have any wind, but it was much colder. It's 26, 27. Now we got these gusty northeast winds, 25 to 30 miles an hour. So if you get enough ice on the trees and power lines, we could have some problems. That remains to be seen this evening. But right now, the temperature's just jumped up to 32 at the airport, also 32 in Detroit. So we're very, very marginal, and that's why the roads right now are fine. And I think the only issue on the roads tonight will be elevated surfaces, anything where the cold air can surround them. Bridges, overpasses, and ramps. The main highways will be fine because they put down melting component. Plus, the temperatures tonight, Alex, probably are going nowhere. They may even go up to 33 or so. And then tomorrow, it's all gone. Highs tomorrow afternoon get this near 50 degrees, continuing the trend of an incredibly warm January and February here in the Midwest.
Yeah, so having that little warm break right before the temperatures get really cold are going to do us some big favors.
Check in with meteorologist Mike Seidel. He's in Ann Arbor, Michigan right now. Mike, ice is accreting for us here as we go through the rest of the day. Do we expect temperatures to come down much? Could it get even rougher overnight tonight? What's the take there in southern Michigan?
Well, the temperatures aren't going to change much through the afternoon and early evening. Right now, we're at 32 here at the airport in Ann Arbor, also 32 in Detroit. Now, this evening, as potentially the temperature goes down a degree or two, the precip's going to end. So once we stop the precip, we don't get any additional accretion. We have to worry about anything that's elevated where the cold air surrounds it, but they're doing extra treatments on those elevated surfaces. We can show you what we have so far. Now, officially at the airport here in Ann Arbor, 0.27, so just a hair above a quarter of an inch of ice. Not all of that freezes on contact. Some runs off, especially when it's blowing or if it's raining hard. This is one example. The ornamental grass out here, look how the wind's been blowing it this way. As the wind came in from the east-northeast to lean it forward, it froze in place. So you've got just a thin sheen of ice on the grass. That's it. They'll have to cut these back. Usually you trim these back in the spring. I'm sure they're going to get to that. Meanwhile, a little bit more ice on the limbs here. You can see right here, a little ice. Now look at this. Watch my finger. Watch my finger. Well, it looked like it was trying to drip. There's another drip right there. See that? Tells me the temperature is really marginal. 32, maybe just a click above 32. But we do have some ice on these trees, a little bit of ice. We're not up to certainly maybe about 0.2 of an inch on some of these limbs. But as we look across the street, we can start to see the shimmer on the trees. Now the concern is the gusty winds. We've been gusting 25 to 30 miles an hour across southeast lower Michigan. That combined with enough accretion could lead to some power outages as we get into this evening and overnight. But again, Alex, the precip will end this evening. So that's it for whatever will accrete. Then we worry about the wind. And in the morning for the rush hour, there may be some spots on the bridges and overpasses, but the DOT here obviously is on top of that. They know those are going to be the issues, not the main highways and not the interstates here around Detroit and Ann Arbor. Alex?
Yeah, but always worth the mention because those are the ones that get sneaky with people. You catch one icy spot and then everybody else does, and you got yourself back up. Mike Seidel, thanks so much. Always appreciate the pictures, what it looks like on the ground, right? Helps to tell the story.
How vital are the temperatures for us right now? Well, let's check in with meteorologist Mike Seidel. He is in Ann Arbor. Mike, you've been talking about the temperatures fluctuating ever so slightly. That can make a difference, but you've seen a decent amount of ice there in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, we're accreting ice here. In fact, that's leading to additional power outages in the past hour across the entire state of Michigan now, 11,200. That's up. And in Wayne County, that's the home county to Detroit, just over 3,000. The rest of the power outages are mostly in those counties bordering on Indiana, so extreme south central Michigan. Here in Ann Arbor, we're also at 32 degrees, so the roads are fine. We've got daylight. Once the sun sets, we don't have daylight, we probably have some issues on elevated surfaces, overpasses, bridges, and ramps, but the DOT and the Public Works here in Ann Arbor have already told us they're keeping an extra eye and taking care of those trouble surfaces by far more than the other streets because the rest of the roadways are fine right now, including the interstates. Now, as you get north, we have more problems. North of 96, you get up into Saginaw where it's snowing. Grand Rapids has a mixture of freezing rain and snow, and north of there, that's all snow. The warning up there is for 6 to 12 inches of snow as you head up towards Traverse City. Well, I've been showing you this all day because metal has a high thermal inertia. Things will freeze on metal and on the trees too, but especially on metal surfaces. You can see the little icicles here on the handle. This truck was parked earlier this afternoon, so it's gotten a good coating on this side because the wind is coming this way from the east-northeast. And as far as scraping, it's a little harder than earlier. Now it's not too bad. And then, you know, you get over here and you can use your finger. So that's what we're facing if you keep your vehicle parked all day. These vehicles have been here just a short time, and there's a little bit of ice on the windows right here. DOT has been out in Waukesha County, and they have looked closely, and we talked earlier today about the preps leading into today's freezing rainstorm.
We prepared all 48 trucks loaded, so they were prepared for this morning. And then as soon as we started today, our shift at 7 a.m., we started patrolling right then and there. Just waiting for any precipitation, and then when the temperatures were right, we started actually applying salt. So we'll work probably till 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning on the roads, and then hopefully everything moves out of this area like we expect. Our crews will go home and rest, and we'll come back tomorrow and just clean up anything on the secondary system, so subdivisions, neighborhoods, that's remaining slippery.
Yeah, the good thing, the forecast tapers down the rain, the freezing rain later this evening by 10 o'clock or so. Certainly by 11 we'll be out of it. And you can see the trees, Alex, across the street getting all pretty with that ice. You know, what is good about an ice storm, the only thing I can think good about it, is the photography the day after if the sun comes out and the sun's sitting on the ice. Just amazing shots. Tomorrow the sun is not going to come out, and so we're left with the ice on the trees on a cloudy day. Again, power outages, the biggest concern tonight and into tomorrow morning as far as impacts here in lower Michigan.
You are right, though, Mike. You know, everything kind of sparkles, looks bejeweled after the storm. So we'll see if we get that. But, you know, at least the temperatures are going to warm up, and hopefully we get a lot of that melting off. Yeah, I think that even the photographers will say, you know what, I'll miss out on the opportunities. Mike Seidel, thanks so much. Yeah, absolutely. They've seen ice, and our Mike Seidel is there. You know, Mike, you've brought it up, though. The ice can lead to some pretty and also some interesting things that has happened there in Ann Arbor today.
Yes, indeed. Also power outages, too. More importantly, nearly 15,000 customers now without power statewide. Most of those are in the counties adjoining the state of Indiana, Wayne County, where Detroit is, just over 3,000. And now here in Washtenaw County, home county to Ann Arbor, we now have about 2,000 power outages. So the numbers are easing up. Not surprised because the ice has been accreting. Our temperature has dropped 32 to 31. I don't expect any kind of rapid drop tonight. If it does drop into the upper 20s, more than likely that's going to happen after midnight and after the precip ends. You can see the accretion on the trees out here. Nothing significant. You know, this is not 3/4 to an inch of ice. Or then we'd have some real issues with power and trees coming down over power lines. Right now, I think what we're dealing with is some limbs that may be dead. They snap because of the weight of the ice. But these trees are pretty healthy, and they don't have any leaves on them, thankfully, and they're not leaning down anymore, really any more than they should. Let's come over here. Alex mentioned the interesting things we've seen out here. And there we go, over to the grass, the ornamental grass, which they'll be cutting back here as we get into the next month or so. It'll come back nicely in May, June, and through the summer. But what we noticed is this is leaning in the direction of downwind. The wind was coming this way, east-northeast. It blew these over, and as they were being blown over, they froze as the rain accreted and became freezing rain on these plants. So it's kind of a picture that's stuck in time. Meanwhile, another tree with ice on it. You can see the icicles not dripping like they were, so it has come down a little bit on the thermometer. Earlier they were dripping, so I think the temperature's just a hair above freezing. Also, keep in mind we still have daylight till about 6:30. After 6:30, keep an eye on the bridges, overpasses, and anything elevated, the on-ramps. But DOT and also Public Works here in Ann Arbor, they've been spending extra time on those areas, and you can see across the street the nature, Alex and Mike, of the ice on the trees and the wind. So watch those power outages go up overnight as the precip ends this evening. And eventually, by mid-morning tomorrow, temperatures above freezing and into the mid-40s tomorrow afternoon. So this time tomorrow, won't be any ice around. By my
nice recovery. That's nice. It'll be a nice recovery.
Yes.
Your calculations are correct, Mike. 40 degrees is going to melt everything 100%. Nice job there, bud. Hey, I appreciate it, Mike.